Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kat and I'm a German girl who writes children's fiction in English. So I recently started to talk about bilingualism a bit more on my channel, and I already made 3 videos with the do's, don'ts, and also some questions and advice about writing bilingual characters. And I kept the big finale, the grand finale, until the end, because today I'm going to talk about code switching. And this is a thing that many people get very wrong when they write bilingual characters, and I'm going to talk about it today. First things first, what is code switching? So, code switching occurs when a speaker alternates between 2 or more languages or language varieties. This is also sometimes called mixing languages or language alternation. We all have probably seen this more in TV shows than in books, but we all know this like very random, awkward, cringy, like side character who will say things like, "Hola chicas, ¿cómo estás? What's up? It's me, your Mexican amigo." So basically, this is not what code switching is or is supposed to be, because no real human being actually speaks like that. Nevertheless, code switching is something that does happen and that multilingual speakers do. They do mix their languages. It's just not completely random. Instead, you should consider the following things. First, you should consider who's talking, so the speaker. I already have some guiding questions that you could ask yourself in my first video, so I will link that up here and also down below in the description box. So basically ask yourself, who is the speaker and how are they likely to use the language? Secondly, and very importantly, you need to consider who they are talking to. The goal of language is communication, so nobody will just randomly switch to a different language when the person they're talking to doesn't understand that language. This seems like a pretty obvious thing, but we see it so many times when the token character who speaks a different language will just randomly throw in words in that language. This is really not how people do it. I mean, I rarely in these videos ever speak German, even though that's my native language. I almost never throw in German words when I speak to my friends who don't know German. But of course, I will throw in German words when I speak with my husband, who's fluent in German, or when I'm in a group of other people who know German and we happen to speak a different language. This already shows you that there can be several dynamics of code switching, so to speak. People tend to speak the language that they met in. So with my husband, I will speak English most of the time because that's how we met, and it would feel very awkward to switch over to German now, even though he is fluent in German. And it's now when we speak German, it's just much more of a conscious choice. And we do mix, but only very rarely, whereas maybe people who have the same cultural and the same language background, but who grew up in the same country, let's say children of Spanish-speaking immigrants in the US, might mix much more when they speak to each other, because they hear one language predominantly at home and then they hear another language predominantly in the outside world, and they are just way more comfortable with mixing the two and with the two overlapping. In parent-child dynamics, I've also often seen the case where the parents teach their child a different language than the majority language in the country. So the parent will speak that minority language and the child might actually answer in the majority language. So for example, we're always coming back to immigrant children. Let's say someone speaks English and moves to Germany and raises their kid in English there. They might ask their kid a question in English and that kid might answer in German just because they're more used to speaking German all day. Thirdly, consider what topic is being talked about and how well that topic lends itself to switching. There are several reasons why people would switch over to a different language in the conversation or actually switch back and forth, which is what code switching is. One reason to switch to a different language is if you're talking about a specific topic. So many people will actually learn about a specific topic in one language and then switch over to that language whenever they talk about it. For example, I am a marketing professional and I mostly did marketing jobs in English. So now it's actually very awkward and very difficult for me to speak about marketing in German. And so even when I spoke German before, I will throw in many English words and might just completely switch over to English actually when I talk about marketing. Bilinguals will also switch over when they want to maintain the exact meaning of a certain word. Because even though you can mostly translate between languages, some words just are not as translatable. And if you want to have a very exact meaning, you will just throw in that word in that language. Another reason people might switch over is when they quote someone, because obviously it's much easier to repeat what a person said in one language rather than trying to stick to the language that you're currently speaking and having to translate a quote. People might also switch over to express solidarity or gratitude, so kind of to feel more connected and sincere. And part of this is also switching over in order to mark a group identity or belonging to some group. For example, you might introduce two Russian speakers to each other in Russian, even though you have been speaking English all the time, just to kind of show that you're all part of the same club. And likewise, you might also switch languages as a bilingual to exclude certain people, and maybe even to have a secret language or to talk shit about them. Those are some instances where bilinguals might code switch, which means where they might go back and forth between the languages that they have at their disposal. Of course, most of those switches, all of those switches, I think, happen deliberately. So bilinguals will very seldomly be in the situation where they just forget that they're speaking one language and just talk to people who don't know that language for large stretches of time without noticing. This is not to say that it never happens, it just happens in very specific instances, and I will talk about those a bit more now. One instance where a bilingual might not notice that they're currently speaking the other language is when they're making thinking noises. So people actually make different thinking noises. So the German one would be with an which is a letter that doesn't even exist in English. English speakers might say more or make a slightly different sound. The same goes for smaller interjections. For example, in German you have the word doch, which is a disagreeing yes. So when someone made a negative statement and you disagree and want to turn it into a positive statement, there's the word doch, comparable to si in French, for example. Bilinguals might also switch accidentally when they swear, sometimes also when they count more to themselves. But that's not always true, by the way, because I, for example, tend to count in English now because I actually find it easier and more intuitive, because in German you kind of switch around the numbers. So something like 76 would actually be called 6 and 70, which I always found extremely confusing. So I now tend to count in English. Bilinguals might also switch languages accidentally without noticing when they have to switch between languages very quickly, or when they're extremely stressed or extremely tired, or maybe when they are hearing one language but are trying to speak another language. In a nutshell, whenever they're not very focused or whenever they just don't have the energy to kind of juggle two or even more languages in their brain, this is when errors might happen. And of course, as I said in the beginning, this also always depends on the kind of command that the speakers have over the languages. So, for example, for me, it happens kind of rarely that I switch in between German and English, because I know English pretty well at this point and I think in English. I don't really translate in my head. And also, my English and my German life are pretty separate. So I have pretty clear occasions when I will speak German with my family in Germany, and the rest of the time I will just speak English because I live in Canada and I don't really have German-speaking friends here. Think about when your bilingual character would switch, when it would make sense for them to switch, and just don't use the same cliched language that you see on TV or that you might read in other books, because this is just not how people talk, and it can get unintentionally funny or very offensive really quickly. Alright, so that's it for today. These were all of my thoughts on writing bilingual characters so far. Of course, let me know in the comments if you have any questions and I can answer them. I might just answer them in the comments, or I might make a separate video depending on how many questions come up. But I definitely think that this topic is so much fun to research and so much fun to talk about, and that I can add something to the conversation because of my academic background and also just my personal experiences. So yeah, don't be shy to ask, and I'm here to answer your questions if you have any. Thank you so much for watching today. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. The button is there, so just click it. And also, you can follow me on all of my other social media if you want to. I will link everything down below in the description box. My handle is @catsperlingbooks pretty much everywhere except for Twitter, where I'm @ksperlingbooks. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time. Bye!